Donald Trump lashed out at Judge Arthur Engoron late last week, accusing the judge of somehow engaging in fraud. The judge overseeing Donald Trump's New York fraud trial has now, by the defendant in the case, been accused of fraud himself. Here is what Donald Trump had to say on Truth Social. Why doesn't the implosion of the AG of New York State's star witness end this witch hunt? He admitted on the stand that he lied and that I never told him or anyone else to inflate the numbers. In fact, the numbers are low or very conservative, the exact opposite of what this ridiculous rigged case is all about. The fraud is by the judge and AG, Mar-a-Lago and more, not by me. That kind of reads like you're saying, hey, the fraud is by the judge and the AG and Mar-a-Lago and more. So maybe watch your phrasing on that in the future, Donald. Actually, everything he also said there, by the way, is 100% false. One of these star witnesses, by the way, that the defense called, that Trump's people called last week, actually pointed out multiple instances of fraud in the evidence that Donald Trump's lawyers brought to court. So they bring in this witness, Flemons was his name. They bring in Flemons. And they think, okay, Flemons is going to say that all this is on the level. And instead, Flemons was like, nope, here's a bunch of red flags. Here's something that's not true. All of this is bad. But then Flemons wrapped it up by saying, but I don't think it was Trump, right? I think it was the accountants. Donald Trump didn't do that. But the trial is not just Donald Trump. The trial is the entire company. The Trump organization is literally a defendant in this case. So if the accountants were doing fraud, or if Trump was doing fraud, or his sons, or Weisselberg, or Michael Cohen, it doesn't matter because they were all doing it on behalf of the company who is a defendant in the case. Not to mention Donald Trump's repeated claim that, hey, I actually lowballed my numbers. Hey, cool admission, buddy. That's also bank fraud. Did you know that? Not giving full accurate representation of the numbers that you present to a bank, whether you are too low or too high, is fraud. Because there are different interest rates offered to individuals depending on their net worth and the value of their assets. You know, you could get a higher one, you could get a lower one. You could qualify for certain kinds of loans if you don't necessarily have the assets to back up a higher loan. So again, it doesn't matter if you're lowballing them or overinflating them. Any representation that is not accurate, high or low, is fraud. So in his big defense here, as he's saying the judge did the fraud, he literally admits that he is still committing the fraud by undervaluing his properties. And the worst part is, I don't think this man is intelligent enough to understand what he's saying, and clearly his lawyers are not smart enough to tell him the things that I have said repeatedly that, hey, stop admitting that you underinflated the values because that's also fraud. I don't know why nobody is telling him that. I don't know why his lawyers don't understand that, but it is what it is, and he can cry fraud all he wants about the judge and the AG. It's pretty obvious at this point. The fraud was coming from him the whole time. Ring of Fire has fresh content 7 days a week, so if you want to be reminded about it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes up.